Thank you, President-elect Tony. It's my pleasure to introduce today's speaker, Major Donald Burbrink. He currently is assigned as the commander of the Narcotics Division. He is a 40-year Louisville Police Department, Louisville Metro Police Department veteran. He has his bachelor's degree from the University of Louisville. He's a graduate of the Southern Police Institute Administrative Officers Course and a graduate of the FBI Academy. He's a certified instructor for the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council, and he served as the SWAT commander for the Louisville Police Department for 12 years. He began his law enforcement career he came in here from Cincinnati, and he began his law enforcement career with the Louisville Division of Police in March of 1977. He's received the Officer of the Year Award, and he's been presented the Medal of Valor. While a member of the Louisville Police Department, Major Burbrink served in the former 1st, 2nd, and 4th districts. He has served in the Crimes Against Children section and the Crimes Investigation section, and he has commanded the Narcotics Division and Training Division and 6th Division and Special Investigations Division. I'm glad that he could fill in today at such a short notice. We look forward to hearing what he has to say about an epidemic that's not affecting just the Louisville area, but affecting the nation altogether. In his spare time, he likes to play golf, he likes to read. He's a Cincinnati Bengals fan and season ticket holder, as well as a University of Louisville fan and a season ticket holder. He's married, he has 3 boys and 2 girls, and his son and his daughter-in-law have followed him into the Law Enforcement Division. Please give a warm Rotary welcome to Major Donald Burbrink.
I came to talk today because my boss had contacted my boss to come in and talk, and she said, you can either go talk at this Rotary Club or you can do this other session here at 1 o'clock. This was much more palatable for me to go ahead and do, so that's why I'm here. I'm here to really talk to you a little bit about heroin. Like I said, Paul said, it's a national epidemic that's coming about. I'll give you a little brief history of heroin. One of the things that you see here, this one just recently from 16, where people smuggled heroin to the airport by swallowing it in balloons. That's the main way that a lot of people were transported into the country. Actually, in fact, started in 1921, socially accepted the opium was. There were 750 cases of medical grade opium was seized in the Brown-Forman Company in Louisville, Kentucky in 1921. It's a little known fact about that. I don't think, we everybody from Brown-Forman? Morphine. Basically, in 1803, the principal ingredient to opium was extracted from opium resin. 10 times more powerful than prescribed opium. It was hailed as a miracle drug back then. A lot of people used it. It was used during the Civil War for patients and so forth to ease pain. In fact, Sears Roebuck had in their catalog in 1896 both cocaine and opium was combined. They didn't have the internet back then. Do the math. In 1909, the Smoking Opium Exclusion Act was enacted. Again, they finally in 1920 they considered it to be a dangerous drug. In 1924, they finally prohibited the manufacture, importation, and use of heroin at that point in time. And what you see now is heroin press. You see it's made from opium poppies, which is grown from basically mostly from the Middle East, Afghanistan. One of the big things that you saw was in the 1970s, during the Vietnam War, opium and heroin became a real big problem here in the country. It was really related to just really hardcore junkies. Since we've been back into that area of the world, it's become more prominent now at this point in time because it's more easily accessible. When the Soviets had Afghanistan and stuff like that, it was really hard to get the opium. We didn't have much problem with heroin, but now we do. Talk a little bit there about the laboratories and so forth. They make it. Most of the heroin that comes into the United States at this point in time is made in Mexico. The Chinese have basically come up with a portion of heroin and fentanyl that they're making. They're crushing it into a pill that looks like hydrocodone, and they're selling that through Canada here at that point in time. So most of the stuff that's brought in here is imported from either China or Mexico. And most of the Mexican cartels are the ones that are dealing with the heroin processing. They basically bring it in down there, they process it, put it into a paste, and bring it and send it across the border. That and meth is their two biggest imports right now. But like everybody else, they also realize that in talking to some of the people we arrest and so forth, some of the big dealers, they tell you, that the Mexicans basically say, hey, if you're going to buy our heroin, you also have to buy our meth because we need you to sell this also along with it. That's a little speed. But now they see all the deaths that are coming from the heroin, we're starting to see more and more cocaine that's coming in. And basically it's just their business model. If you're killing off your customers, anybody who's got a business killing off your customers, you're going to find something else in order for them to go ahead and purchase it. They're going to make money. So they are a business. Heroin remains steadily enlisted U.S. and showed rapid decline from 1980 1991. Heroin use shows several years of increase in the use. Basically, right now we're seeing more and more of the problem that came in the early 2000s and so forth, when people started getting hooked on opioids, when basically the oxycodone, hydrocodone, all those things came on out, people with Opana, all those things came out, and people were using them, and we had the pill mills, and I think a lot of people have seen that when they used to have pill mills. They used to have buses from eastern Kentucky that would drive down with a whole busload of people. They go to a place in Florida, they'd all go on in there, complain about back pain, they get a prescription, they go over, fill that prescription of 50, they got to keep 10 or 15 of them. They gave the other guy who brought them down there the rest of them, and then took their bus back up to eastern Kentucky. That was a prominent way of bringing in the pills and so forth. So if anybody watched the TV show Justified, they actually talked a little bit about that at that point in time. So we saw a lot of that at that point in time. They become abusive. People really got onto those things, and they started figuring out if you crush one up, you can actually inject them or snort them. Finally, the pharmaceuticals got wind of this. They started changing the component of it. They changed the component of it, and the next thing was heroin. And that's sort of where we're at now. Right now, the biggest problem with heroin is most people who dealt with opioids knew what the prescription was because it told you how many grams it was. You got them in sort of different sizes. Well, with heroin, it's not the same thing. When they bring that in and you get it there, it's totally different. You may think, okay, if I crush up the opioid, it's big. If I take that same amount of heroin, it's the same high. Well, it's not, because heroin's cut with different things. Sometimes cut with baby formula, so it's a little bit less toxic. Sometimes it's cut with fentanyl, which makes it a heck of a lot more toxic, so it makes it so that people die from it. Go ahead. So my time when I came in here, 1977, heroin was only used by severe junkies. Most officers did not see it. Basically, marijuana, pills, LSD, and cocaine were common. 1980, pretty much heroin was out of the picture, and freebasing cocaine was the in thing. Everybody remembers the incident with Richard Pryor, where he set himself on fire in 1980. In 1981, 1983, T's and B's, Tallman and Blues. And you can see the pharmaceutical names. It was intravenous drug usage, and it started the AIDS issue here in Louisville. Basically, they would crush these pills up together. The way they work together, for some reason, the chemistry of it caused a heroin-type rush. They started intravenously doing it. They started sharing needles. People started sharing needles, and that's where AIDS came. And that's where you're starting to see that now. There was just a big thing in the news with the community up in Indiana, where same thing with the heroin. They started sharing needles, dirty needles, and they're starting at that point in time to see a big AIDS epidemic come back. We actually got that out of that at that point in time. But late 1980s, crack cocaine, this was a big thing where most of the gangs got started in. It was a lucrative process, it was pretty cheap. People smoked crack cocaine at that point in time. It was a high. Most people didn't die from crack cocaine other than from a bullet, or they were fighting over the use of crack cocaine. In the early 1990s, club drugs were really big at that point in time. You saw a lot of ecstasy and so forth out there. That was one of the biggest things that came on in. And then finally, in the mid-late 90s, opioids, pill mills, and pain doctors came up. That was a big to-do. And then we started getting the meth epidemic, where I think a lot of people came out with the meth epidemic at that point in time, where people were actually doing their own meth and had meth labs. Well, now anymore, you really don't see that. may see the one pot method where you basically just get enough for you to consume, you and your friends to consume, but you don't get enough now at a point in time. Because, like I said, if anybody watched Breaking Bad, you know, you had to do a lot of different stuff to go ahead and get a lot of big product at that point in time. You had to know what you were doing, you're going to blow yourself up, or you're going to get something toxic and kill yourself. So that kind of changed. Now, most of it's done in Mexico. And I don't think they've got OSHA in Mexico at this point in time for those labs. Go ahead with the media, talk about this. This is one, the firefighter dead from apparent heroin overdose. Police woman stores heroin in a restaurant bathroom while caring for her young child. These are all local here. Woman alleges to have stolen 15,000 gift cards to pay for her heroin epidemic. Bardstown woman, I'm sorry, is convicted of heroin. This picture was in Time magazine this past week. It was taken in East Liverpool, Ohio. Basically, this is a couple that's got their granddaughter in the back seat, and the heroin became such a big thing that they couldn't just wait to get home to do this. They went ahead and did it in the car with their granddaughter in the back seat, and both of them are seen nodding off, and they're calling, and of course somebody goes by and sees them and calls the police, and the officer gets there. This is the photograph they take of both of these. And like I said, most people think that heroin and drug epidemics is for young kids. These people were in their 50s and 60s that are doing it now. You know, that's the big change. You know, usually people grow out and have drug scene and go to something else. That's not what's happening today. Here's another couple that's out walking after taking some drugs and falling over. There's a lady who's at the Target store with her daughter shopping, and she couldn't resist, so she went to the restroom and shot herself up a little bit of drugs, went back out to shopping. Obviously, she nods out in the aisle. You see her little daughter there with her at that point in time. This is a horrific case out of Pittsburgh. This lady here and her little boy, basically she started using drugs. She died of an overdose. The child was there with them for about 2 weeks before she was found. The child died of starvation because nobody came. She ostracized herself from her family. Nobody came to check on her. Somebody finally said, you know, the mail is building up. Nobody's there. They went to check, and then when they found her dead, her child dead, and he died of starvation. County Attorney Michael O'Connor's son found dead in the car. You know, this goes across all boundaries. That's one thing we see now. You know, it used to be, well, and most people used to say, well, it's just the junkies doing this and so forth. And we've had cases of 66-year-old African-American men sitting at the kitchen table, overdosing and dying. We've got cases of 50-year-old people. We've got cases of one case where the former FBI agent, his son, who was an Eagle Scout and Marine Corps veteran, died of an overdose. So it crosses over everything at that point in time, so it's a real big thing. And threaten to overwhelm our agencies. Right now, the hospitals, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, all the places to go ahead and get rehab and so forth are just overwhelmed with the heroin epidemic at this point in time. And it's very, very potent. That's one biggest thing is most people say, well, I can do one thing at one point in time and it won't really impact me. Really, once you start shooting heroin, you're addicted at that point in time. Louisville emergency doctors, this past year, have seen over 1,567 cases of overdoses. It overwhelms the system. And you know, that's the problem. In the emergency room, you see a lot of these things. You know, you've got other people that are in there because they had an injury, they're in car accidents, and so forth. This overwhelms the emergency room situation in most hospitals. In 2015, more people died of drug overdose in the U.S. than any other year. 60% of them were because of painkillers. Over the past 17 years, rates of opioid overdose deaths have quadrupled because of overprescription of painkillers and heroin. In 2015, this comes out of the 2015 Kentucky Medical Disease Report, there were 795 drug-related deaths in the state of Kentucky, representing 32% of all cases that were autopsied. 233 of these were heroin confirmed. This doesn't include any cases that were not sent for autopsy. And as of Monday, October 17th, homicides investigated 165 fatal overdoses this year. That's 165 people that died from drugs just this year in the first 10 months of the year. It used up a lot of resources. That's not including all the people who say. In 2011, 4.2 million Americans over the age of 11 had tried heroin at least once, according to the National Institute on Drug Abuse. It's a lot of people. Heroin arrests, as you can see at the bottom, I don't know if you can see the bottom now, they're continually going up every year for the past several years. This year alone, for our seizures, we've seized over $3,500,000 in cash, 78 guns, 309 pounds of cocaine, 368 pounds of meth, 6,346 pounds of marijuana, and 82 pounds of heroin. The discrepancy is, heroin doesn't take a lot. It does not take a lot. They sell in very small portions and so forth. So a pound of heroin is a lot of drugs to move and to sell at that point in time. Where cocaine can go pretty quickly and so forth, meth can go pretty quickly. They're all highs, they're all fast moving drugs. So you want to get up with those drugs. Heroin takes you down. Again, you go back to the known arrest charge. If you see those charts and so forth, they're continuously going up throughout the years. Even at this point, for the known arrest, we've been going on up, and this year right now we're close to catching up where we were last year. Again, you go arrest and seizures, the numbers there, again, they continue to go up. Arrest and seizures for heroin continue to go up in Jefferson County. Anonymous complaints, even this year, we're already up to where we were last year on people calling in anonymous complaints on heroin use and heroin users. And then heroin overdose deaths, making some of the numbers in the Courier Journal are correct. 63.9% of the state's OD deaths attributed to heroin have come from Louisville, Metro Jefferson County, Kentucky. That's a lot. Those are the ones that were autopsied. And one of the things you'll know that in other counties, a lot of times, if they see somebody that's sitting there, they're overdosed, they got a needle in their arm, they don't send them for autopsy. They just basically write out of the office an overdose. These are the ones that actually were people that were autopsied at that point in time. Heroin cases in 2012. One of the things that I was asked earlier is the percentage of cases that we get, crimes that are committed, that drugs are involved in. Probably 65 to 70% of the cases that we get involved in is because of drug related at some point in time. Now, a little different than that, if you go back and Tracy will verify this with me, if you go back to people arrested, probably 90% of people arrested have some sort of drug or alcohol on board at that point in time, the time of their arrest. So that's a high number too. One of the biggest drug abuses that we've got is marijuana. Obviously, that goes throughout everybody. It's very rare that you don't see someone with some kind of marijuana on board. It's just part of it. But for most of the divisions, they have crimes, and most of them are committed, burglaries are committed, thefts are committed because they're trying to feed their habit. They're out there stealing stuff they can do. When I was out in the 6th Division, which is out in Hikes Lane, basically what these guys would do, they'd have a van, and they'd drop off the people in the neighborhood, and they'd walk up and knock on the front door. If no one answered the front door, they'd walk around the back, kicking the back door. They were smart. They brought backpacks. All they put in the backpacks was what they could carry. Phones, guns, jewelry, money, laptops. And basically what they do is they text the guy and say, come by. The guy would drive by in a van. They'd walk out to the van, throw it in the back of the van, and go on down the street. And they may hit 10, 15 houses, in a neighborhood in one day. And they take the stuff right away, sell it, and then get the money and they go buy drugs. We just recently had a case where these people were shoplifting from Home Depot, Home Improvement, and Lowe's, and they were actually going in and wheeling out about $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 worth of stuff every day. And then they get somebody else to go back and take to another store, get gift cards for it, and there's actually a guy that buys gift cards, 70 cents on the dollar. And so they would go out, and they were getting, the one lady we tracked, she was getting $25,000 a month to feed her habit. $25,000 a month, and that was 70 cents on the dollar. So you people who are in business know that's a lot more money at that point in time that you're actually stealing from these places. But all shoplifting. Here's some of the stuff you see from heroin. The spoon is a big thing. They got to heat it up. It comes in granules and so forth. They put some water with it. They heat it on up. Usually you'll see a cotton ball or a lot of times the butts of a cigarette. They'll use that to tear out the filter and use that to put the needle through it to filter it so you get some of the impurities out of it, and they shoot it. These are combined effects, short-term and long-term. Some of the things, basically they nod out is what happens. They lose consciousness, and that's one of the biggest things that happens is they lose consciousness. Their mind is not telling them to breathe, and they die. That's generally what happens. They get dryness of the mouth. The skin is warm. flushing, they have problem breathing at that point in time, they have weakness of the muscles. You can see some of those things. Go ahead. This is somebody here, a kid who had a master's degree from the University of Kentucky, and you can see sort of how he's been arrested throughout the years. You can see the change in him at this point in time, throughout the time he was always on heroin. Go ahead. That's his last arrest. We finally got convicted and sent away in 2016. We have, in 2013, we had over 2,700 runs for overdoses in regards for heroin. This is 2015. So if you go with the numbers there, go ahead. 667 for last year, and they think that will double till 2019. And basically what they say is if you have 2,785 overdose runs, and what they're saying is it costs $4,480 for them in the medical treatment is what it costs for each overdose. At that point in time, it's estimated $12,476,800 is what it costs per year and that comes back out to the community because most of the people do not have insurance. They are basically brought in by EMS, brought in at that point or dumped on the hospital grounds, and they're brought in at that point in time, and basically we foot that bill. You and I as consumers foot that bill through taxes. So an estimated $12 million. In 2014, it was a little over $14 million. 2015, it was $17 million. $44 million in those 3 years there is what was costed to do that. Go ahead, I'm sorry. Fentanyl is one of the biggest things you see. I don't know if you follow the case that came out of Lexington just recently. They were using actually carfentanil. Carfentanil is an elephant tranquilizer. 2 pieces of that will kill somebody. And basically what happened is a group out of Cincinnati got a hold of some carfentanil and started mixing it with their heroin, and they started sending it. Of course, they sent it down to Kentucky. At that point in time, the people in Eastern Kentucky got it, and in one weekend it ended up, I think there was 6 deaths and 12 other people overdosed at that point in time, just on that one batch. Obvious indicators of heroin use, again, like I say, people shooting up in bathrooms. And that's the most common thing. One of the things is, if you've got a public bathroom in your business and so forth, you gotta be careful because a lot of people go and shoot up the drugs in public bathrooms and so forth. They get them, they can't wait to get high. So as soon as they get them, if they can go into a place, get into a bathroom and so forth, and we get them a lot of times in McDonald's bathrooms. We had one recently in a Thorns bathroom where 2 of them, a guy and a girl, just got high. Both of them shot up in the bathroom, and both of them were dead at that point in time. We actually got to bring them both back, but that's part of it. Heroin use, you can see some of the things that they use for heroin. Most of it, like I said, is shot. One of the things that drugs that come out, naloxone, Narcan, is one of the things that we use in the police department, EMS uses, and they also use it at the hospital. It's the name of potentially life-saving drug designed to reverse opioid prescription drugs and heroin overdoses. When someone takes heroin, the drug hooks onto the receptors in the brain, slows the brain down, and disrupts breathing. Naloxone rapidly frees up these receptors and restores consciousness and normal breathing. LMPD has equipped all 44 patrol beats with 2 response kits per beat. All doses are administered intranasally. It's very simple. Basically, what you do is you've got an already loaded up needle, not basically, it's a syringe that you put in one of those, and if you've got any small kids, you know that they usually get the flu shot through the nose. Same thing. They basically put the top on that, you break the seal, you put a blast in each of the nostrils and so forth, and you wait. And a lot of times it takes 2. There's so many times that they've done so much drug, it takes 2 shots of that to go ahead and get them back to normal. But when they come out like this, and they're usually combative. That's one of the things that we've seen in the past. When they come out and they don't know where they've been, what's going on, they're usually combative. But this is how it costs. We started the program, go back if you would. We started the program the second week of February 2016. We've administered 387 overdose victims with 576 doses of naloxone. In the numbers, the different numbers, sometimes you have to do 2 of them. Sometimes the EMS shows up and they've got the one. ones, they've got one there, but that's 397, along with the 165 people that didn't make it, that we're aware of, that we know for sure at that point in time, that had got to some point in time, they had to be medically intervened. 36 had no response to medication after it was administered. The average cost of each dose is $42. To date, we've been awarded $13,000 in grant funding for the program, but the projected cost of the program for a year is $90,000 to $100,000, with a startup cost of $45,000. And I kind of did the math on this thing today, and I'm not very good at math, but it's with what we've had in the past and so forth. We've spent about $38,000 what we've spent so far this year on that program. From there, one of the things that we're trying to do, LMPD is trying to do, is initiative. We're going to expand by 24 officers. If you've been watching the news and so forth, you understand that we've changed from the format from where we used to be out in all the divisions. Now it's all going to come under one umbrella, which will be under me at that point in time. We're expanding to 24 officers and 3 sergeants in November. We'll now cover 6 days a week with about 18 hours of coverage a day. We'll be able to respond to most complaints within 48 hours. One of the things I just had a meeting before I came here with is we're going after some of the dealers at this point in time. On those overdoses where people die, we're going to go out there at that point in time and try to get their cell phones. We've got this thing called cell rights where you can hook the cell phone up and get the last few numbers and so forth and the last text, and use that as evidence to go after the dealers at that point in time. That's one of the big things that we're trying to do. It's starting all over the country with the DEA, drug enforcement is doing that also, and they're footing the bill. The U.S. government's footing the bill on this thing. But it will allow us, and you'd be surprised at how many times that you deal with family members who've lost a child or spouse or somebody else in their family, and the person they're mad at, they should be mad at the person who did it also, but the person they're mad at is who gave them the drugs. And a lot of times we don't have the resource or way to go ahead and do that. Now we're starting to see that we are going to be able to try to do that and get the evidence and actually go after them. And if they're charged with distributing federally, it's 20 years. That's the minimum they can get, is 20 years. In the federal system, it's you serve 85%. There's no parole. You serve 85% of the time. So that's a big incentive at that point in time. We're hoping that this will make an impact on people. And it doesn't prohibit you at that point in time from going after them in state court for reckless homicide or manslaughter. So we're still trying to do both of those, and we're hoping that program will start up in January this year for us. Talks about the different symptoms and so forth of withdrawal. Go ahead. As you can see in there, and then there's more symptoms of some of the withdrawal. And it's hard to get off, there's no doubt about it. That's one of the big things. Casey's Law comes on in, was done in 2002. This kid died of heroin overdose at 23 years of age. The law became effective in the state of Kentucky in 2004, allows for the involuntary treatment of addicts. So basically, we've always had on the book a thing for mental inquest warrants. So if you got somebody's acting out or doing something, a family member can go down and take a petition at that point in time, and you get that person into treatment. And basically the judge would order them, they have to go in at least for 48 hours at that point in time to be evaluated. They can keep extending it to get treatment. Because a lot of people who have mental illnesses and problems don't want to admit they do, so they don't want to get treatment. This goes back now to heroin and to the usage of drugs or drug using. If you've got a relative or somebody who has a problem, obviously has a problem, doesn't want to get help, you can actually go and take a petition on them under this law here and get them at least sent into a rehab system, be evaluated for 48 hours, and from there they continue on at that point in time, continue out. So they're trying to get people help, even though most addicts don't want help. We've got a couple cases in naloxone. We had one girl, we saved her 3 times in 24 hours. She overdosed 3 different times within 24 hours. We saved her. 2 days later, she died. There's not a whole lot you can do at that point in time with those people. They don't want help. They're not looking for help. They're looking for the next high. But we have had a lot of success stories too. There's one guy I saw on the news not recently that basically he's a lawyer. He overdosed for narcotics and basically got naloxone and came on out and he's there now. So that's basically it. Go ahead.
As parents of a 17-year-old and a 14-year-old, we listen to presentations like this, and the wife and I and our entire club are so grateful we have every reason to be concerned, but also frightened of.
And that's true. I think most people think that, you know, that they see where the shootings happen at and so forth. If you look at a map of the city, that the shootings and so forth, murders are pretty much located in one part of the city. But this thing goes all throughout the whole part of the city. It doesn't matter where you live. You can live in Prospect, you can live in Indian Hills, you can live any place out here, Lake Forest, and you're going to get kids that try this and adults that try this. And that's one of the biggest things, is to be really watching your children, knowing what your children are doing, knowing who your children are doing things with, and being cognizant of that fact, who they're with, what they're doing, and so forth, and start looking for those things. You know, kids are smart, they're resilient. They're going to do things. I mean, most of these kids, you know, we talk to parents and so forth, they said they had no idea. You know, I looked at their arms, they were never in their arms. Well, they're shooting between their toes. You know, they're shooting drugs. There was other things they, you know, they thought, they saw some things there, but they didn't really, you know, they didn't want to think the worst of their child. You know, and that's the bad thing. I think a lot of people think people are shooting intravenous drug users, the ones they see on TV, the guys down the alley, the back alley there, homeless person and so forth. But that's not really the model at this point in time. I mean, we've got people from all over, all different classes, all different socioeconomic groups that are basically shooting heroin and using heroin. And some of it has to do with the fact that they've got pain issues, they've got back pain issues, they've been on pain medication for all their life, is not doing the same thing, they got to try and bump it on up. And some of it is the fact that these kids just like to try it. You know, it's like, okay, I just really want to see what it feels like. With heroin, once you try it, you're addicted to it. You're addicted to it. It's not something you can just say, I'm going to try this cigarette. And everybody probably here at some point in time in life tried a cigarette. I know I stole my mom's Viceroy, went down to the creek and smoked one, and puked, and never did it again. But everybody's tried it. It's not the same thing. You know, you either liked it or you didn't like it. Well, this is basically chemicals. It goes in your system. At that point in time, your body feels that way, and you're like, oh, I really want to try and represent that feeling again. And what happens, a lot of these people don't care. They go out and they steal as much stuff. They steal from their own families, take everything they can, pocket, and try to get the next rush. And with heroin, it's not like, you know, with alcohol, you drink to pass out and so forth, and, you know, you probably have a time frame there that you won't. With heroin, when you come back to, you want another nine. You want another one. So you can shoot heroin all day long, you know, till you overdose.
Do we have any questions? Yes. Let's take two.
My name is Pat Dang. I wanted to ask about marijuana. Some of the states are legalizing marijuana. You didn't mention one way or the other about marijuana. I'm just curious what your thoughts are about what's going to happen down the road about that.
You know, I was in Colorado and so forth, and went out there and looked at just you know, they made a lot of money for it, and I think it's all driven by taxation and so forth, and money that's there that people are making from that, and people look at that as a way of kind of cutting the gap. But realistically, you know, it's still an addiction. Most people you're going to find out, if you talk to most addicts and so forth, they start out with marijuana. A lot of them didn't go on it from there. They continue to do marijuana and so forth. But I think it's coming. I don't know that I'll see it in my lifetime. I know I won't see it in my time I'm on the department, because I'm leaving next August. But I think I'll see it in my lifetime that everybody will have, it'll be regulated, sort of like cigarettes and so forth, and it will be just like alcohol. You know, it'll be regulated at that point in time. Only certain people can buy it, only buy so much and so forth. But what they're seeing out in Colorado is not so much the smoking of it, it's the edibles. The edible are killing people. And the reason being, and everybody here has bought a bag of chips before. If you look on the back of that bag of chips, it said, this is 3 servings. Nobody sits down and says, okay, I'm going to treat, this is my 1 serving. You just eat the whole bag. Well, it's the same thing with these cookies and everything else. They're edibles. They're like supposed to be done six different servings. And when you get a cookie, you're going to eat the whole cookie if you're a cookie person. So you eat the whole cookie, now you've eaten so much that it's an overdose. And the other thing is kids start picking those things up and they start to overdose. So that's the danger there. But I really think you're going to see a regulation at some point in time that'll probably become legal.
And Harriet, please, with our question, and then George, if you could bring your question to the front,
Hi.
we'll need to conclude.
Thank you, Harriet Friedlander. Thank you for what you're doing. And for those of you that care, I did give the growler back to Sydney for the event. I have a question about a new kind of, I think it's fentanyl, that's coming out of Ohio. That is, I think it's fentanyl, that is so potent and so dangerous that if an officer even absorbs a little of it through a cut in his hand, he becomes ill and could die. Do you have any experience with that coming into Kentucky now?
No, that's the carfentanil that I talked about. It's it's an elephant tranquilizer that they're able to get a hold of. It's very hard to get a hold of, and I know we got somebody from the zoo here, they can probably tell us a little bit more about how hard it is to get. But that's one of the things that they do use up there. They got into a batch of stuff, but they cut it with anything. You'd be surprised what these people cut their drugs with, because it's just like any other product. You spend so much for this product, you got to divide it out to make a profit. And by making it bigger, you're going to take, they take all kinds of different things and put into there. Baby powder, they put all kinds of different chemicals and so forth in there just to make it expand it and so forth, and be able to do that. And that's one of the things they expanded, because it also makes it more potent. And they think that by just taking some of those things and putting it into there and diluting it, that it won't be as hot, you won't get sick or anything. But like you said, just a little bit of that will kill you. So any grams that you get of that, or any dose that you get will kill you.
Major Donald Burbrink, thank you very much.